Me, I want what's coming to me.
Oh, well, what's coming to your life?
The world, Chico. And everything in it.
Oh, man.
Welcome to Road to Billions podcast, the mentality of an entrepreneur. With your host, Moise Bertrand.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It is your host, Moise Bertrand, the Road to Billions podcast. It's been an amazing journey, you guys. I want to thank everybody who's been listening and tuning in, of course, on the podcast over the last couple of weeks and, just sharing my podcast overall. I heard somebody the other day tell me, hey, man, I've been listening to your podcast. I was like, yeah, that's a bet. I'll be dropping my episodes. So, I make these episodes because people get them on their own phones as an update. So if you don't have it already, subscribe to my podcast, of course, on Apple Podcasts. But, people get updates on their phones, of course, if they're subscribed. And, they let me know I just listened to your podcast this morning. So I'm definitely grateful for you guys once again that I always mention all the time. This podcast episode, I'm going to name it, What's the Perfect House to Invest In? And, before I get into that, I want to give you guys a little rundown about why you should even place your money in some type of investment. So if you see nowadays, and this is just me speaking hypothetically, right? I'm not somebody who's a conspiracy theorist. I'm not somebody who's making, mumbo jumbo in their head, right? I'm somebody who's looking at things and, I just take a step back and, just make my own analysis, if that makes sense. But, the economy is changing, right? And I think it's going to change drastically in the point where it's no longer going to be accessible for people to get the same benefits like they were able to 10 years ago or have the same luxury of certain things. Like just recently, man, Job Corps, right? And don't forget, don't worry, you guys. I'm coming back to, tell you guys about the perfect house to invest in. But I just want to give you guys a little rundown. Job Corps, it was been around for years. And, sadly, it's one of those programs that allow people from inner city places or low income residential housing places and, not opportunity. They're able to go to Job Corps, which is in every state and city, and, become certified in an HVAC technician. It's like trade jobs pretty much. And majority of trade jobs ended up becoming lifelong careers, right? People became self-employed, opened up their own successful businesses, roofing companies. A lot of contractors, became contractors through the experience of being an apprentice or going through a journeyman, as they want to call it. And, that takes off in other ways. So CNAs becoming nurses. So there's a lot of ways that specific program was able to allow the average, adult and, someone who didn't want to go to college and stuff like that, find an alternative route, to career and making an income. But that's no longer a thing. So, I try to tell people and urge them, like, any bit of chance that you have, put your money somewhere. I don't care if you put your money in stock market. I don't care if you put your money in real estate, land, if you even buy gold, everything that is something that you can always sell over will always be an asset. Look at it that way. People say, oh, you can still sell a car. You can, but you can't sell it for the same price you bought it at, if that makes sense. But you could sell something that you bought it at and get a profit off of it, or even get majority of your money back at the end of the day. Because I think for gold, they give you like 70 or 80% of what it's worth or something like that. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's just a lot of things that's going on in this world that would just allow you to not really feel secure, in my opinion. I feel like with the job market right now, we do see ICE, unfortunately deporting a lot of people. And yes, that might open up a lot of job openings, but the jobs that are being taken are jobs that people don't want. So that's another thing, too, America is facing a problem with. And also, like I said, causing havoc in, because the jobs that are actually are being taken, with dignity and patience, no one other than Hispanics want to, do that, So that's going to be a slow production in just how money flows in the economy unless another alternative takes place. And they're just them kind of benefits, like I said, them kind of benefits and that unfortunately is pipelined back into businesses and into the economy, and it's forcing people to, not rely on the government anymore. As you guys can see as well, Section 8 is 2 years now. So Section 8 being 2 years, it doesn't allow people to be on there for, years at a time anymore. That was something that a lot of people was living off. And, I don't really have any say-so in that because you don't really know somebody's living condition. You don't really know how someone was, raised or anything. So we always look at it from what could the government do to help people like that, right? And that's why I'm a landlord. That's why I try to hear everybody out, because I do know everybody has a situation, but we got to focus on a solution. And the solution is just putting our money in the right places. So for those who do have the money, right, and for those who do want to learn about real estate, putting your money in the right places and buying the right house, it's a game of chess, right? So when I first started real estate, I didn't know nothing about buying a house. I didn't know nothing about how to evaluate a house. I didn't know nothing about how much a house would cost to fix up, right? But I did know it was a lot of numbers. I was afraid of hearing six figures. I was afraid of hearing 200,000. I was afraid of these numbers because I wasn't knowledgeable. And, moving forward with the knowledge I have now, it's safe to say that every deal is the same deal. They're just priced different. It's the same process like every deal. And if you follow the same process, every deal will go smooth. Now, that's not for certain because you do have things that might come up. Like I tell people all the time, you might have something that might come up and you never knew. You were oblivious to it, right? Or not even oblivious to it. You just weren't in the vicinity of actually seeing it with your naked eye, right? I was telling somebody the other day, you don't know if pipes are bad until you rip the floors or the walls down, and there's so many things that could go wrong when you don't know what's behind the wall, right? So that's one of the things I try to tell people. When you're buying the right house is the right house if it fits your budget. That's the right investment if it fits your budget. Don't listen to nobody saying, oh, buy a duplex, go buy it. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you're fucked. Because you still got to think about it. You're still maintaining two homes at the same time, right? You're not looking at it like you're still living on your side of the home. If you do decide to live on your own side of the home, you're still maintaining not only your side of the home, but also the tenant side of the home, right? So now you still are responsible for reserves, maintenance and everything so forth under that roof. Now, let us say you do have the money for that. Their experience is something that you want to also think about, because they tell a lot of people, go get a duplex, but a lot of people may not know how to run a property or may not know how to run a business. So I tell people the easiest thing you could do is getting some experience under someone, But also I would recommend just doing a single family home first, right? I know people have mixed feelings saying, oh, do a duplex and all that good stuff, 2 incomes at once, and that's cool. But I feel like you want to crawl first, right? You really don't know how the tenant that may be living next to you is going to react, and the banging on the walls, and you might have a bad tenant, kids yelling at night. You don't know. And if you have 2 tenants at the same time, you don't know how to deal with that conflict yet, because I hate when people say, oh, there's no conflict in real estate. Sometimes you got to do certain things that people aren't fond of, like sending people emails that lets them know, hey, listen, this is what we're doing moving forward. So pretty much not asking, not favoring, but demanding, commanding, right? I feel like as landlords, we have to be a lot more stern with our decisions, especially when it comes to people who live in the homes that we purchase with our hard-earned money, like hard-earned money. Like, people fail to realize that at the end of the day, these are our homes. At the end of the day, like, these are our investments. This is our money. This is something that's in our name. So we want to also be very mindful about the activity that goes on in these homes and how these homes are treated. So I tell people all the time, like, start with a single-family home, right? I feel like the best homes are in the fucked up neighborhoods, the hoods. We talk about Jacksonville, Florida, as I would say is probably the cheapest place right now to buy homes under $100,000. If you want me to be honest, Jacksonville, Florida is going to be anybody's best bet right now, and you could easily get that going with Section 8, right? Because that's predominantly low income, and I tell people under $100,000, you might need to bring like $15,000 or $20,000 to closing, right? And that's perfect. You feel me? You could go get that 401k. You could save up with two other friends, or other friend, and that's pretty much a little level-headed entry, I would say, in getting your feet wet in real estate. Now, with everything else, I'll say it's kind of hard because you don't really know how the market works in other places. But me telling you specifically, you would know that Florida is a strong job market. Florida has a lot of attractions. Jacksonville, Florida is what I'm from Florida, and I forget this every time. I think Jacksonville is like 2 hours away from Orlando, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't be going to Jacksonville. That's to my point. I'm from Miami, you guys. I don't be up to Jacksonville, so I don't really be knowing. But at the end of the day, I do know Jacksonville is just a great place just to invest, man. There's just a lot of upcoming places that we do say that it's overlooked. We have Macon as another one, but it doesn't appreciate. But, like I said, Jacksonville is just going to be the example I use. Abandoned homes is going to be the best thing you use as your investment if they've been on the market for so long, because people don't want to buy them. They feel like something's wrong with them. They feel like, why is no one else buying them? And that's the perfect gold mine, right? When I was first buying properties, people always overlooked the properties that sat on the market for 90, 100 days. I love them type of properties because I feel like I'm the type of person who can figure it out. I'm like, oh, ain't nothing I can't figure out. You feel me? Like we're gonna run the play that we always run. We're gonna do our due diligence. We're gonna figure out what's the problem. We're gonna uncover it. We're gonna make a plan, and if we could execute it, we execute it. If we don't, we just pass that headache on to somebody else. Because trust me, man, you don't want to pick up on a deal that you feel like you could do, and you gambling. That's $100,000 gamble. That's a 6-figure gamble. You don't want to bet on nothing like that. So I try to tell people all the time, like, bet on what you know you could do. If you know, if you know you specialize in fires and floodings and subfloors and all that good shit, or complete demo, do that. If you only specialize in turnkey properties, meaning these properties are already fixed up, and you just like to buy them at the real price, and still rent them out for at least a decent profit, that's cool too. No one's saying that's not a wrong way to invest, but I feel like the best way to invest is buying cheap, selling high, and that's anybody's profit, and that's how you make profit in business. So Jacksonville, Florida is a place I would definitely recommend up and coming investors and even experienced investors to look at, because the whole investing in real estate is, you just want to look at the economy that's around it. I wouldn't invest in a place where I don't know what's there, if that makes sense. Jacksonville, Florida, I know at least Tampa's around the corner, Orlando's around the corner, Tallahassee's around the corner, and if you really want to get all, fancy, Miami's, down the corner as well. You feel me? So it's like, there's a lot of things down in Florida that you could always be like sure of that your investment is not going to ever go back and be fucked up, right? And I tell people all the time, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, your house will always be rented at a great profit margin. You can always sell the year or the year after that. You don't always have to think about the problems that you're facing right now, because everybody goes through problems in real estate. I tell people all the time, like, I bought houses that gave me horrible problems, and it made me rub my head and temple at night. I couldn't sleep. And I got houses that, man, I was smiling from ear to ear when I got them, because I already knew it was a cash cow, and I made it a cash cow. So it's like, you're going to run into both scenarios. But the best thing to do is your due diligence, right? So you want to do your comparables. Always make sure that the price that you're buying at and the price that you're going to invest in at, the money you're going to put in is going to be a lot more. It's going to be worth a lot more. You get me? If you're buying it for 70, you put in 30 in, at least make it worth 160. You feel me? That's reasonable. That's something that say you're 100 grand in, and at the end of the day, you got it up. You get a profit margin as well. If you sell it or if you do the refinance, that's a whole nother story. But you want built-in equity. You also want to have people who are just going to invest in your house, right? So Section 8 tenants, they're good. You do have your bad bunch of people, but when I say invest in your house, Section 8 also do their own inspection. So they're investing in your home because your home is now part of their business and database. So let's just say a tenant is giving you problems. They're okay with switching the tenant out, and even making sure that the rest of your money is paid out to you if a tenant breaks their lease. So that's another thing too. Section 8, protects you with it, like lease protection. Tenants who are causing problems, they end up breaking their lease and moving on. If they want to be a part of the program still, they still have to continue to pay their mortgage. I mean, they said their mortgage, their portion of their rent to you. So if they no longer live in your home, they broke their lease. If they want to keep their membership, their voucher, they got to continue to pay the last landlord before they move into a new home. And that is to keep the landlords happy and everybody, balanced out, because the same way tenants have authority when they say, hey, well, something's broken in here, they call Section 8. Section 8, the first thing they're going to do is call the landlord and say, hey, you do know your tenant is under distress, quote unquote. You're like, man, I just took care of that situation. Well, they just called us, sent us an email saying, woo. Now you're like, man, okay, let me see what's going on. So they give you the same courtesy. I'm going to keep it real, when you do have that same problem with bad tenants. But, when you're looking for a home, man, that's going to be the best option to buy. You want to see how big the house is too, because I feel like buying a house that's too big scares away people because it's too much space, man. I feel like a decent, nice, modern home, I'll say like 1,000 or 1,500 square foot is a real, good starting point. And anything under that as well, you feel me, will be great, except for it being less than 800. Anything less than 800, I don't really know. But, 875 is great enough, you get me? Because, with that price, with that square footage range, 875 to at least 1,500, you could be you could have it at a 3-bedroom or 3-2, and, people are going to have some good spacing in there and all that good stuff, at least, to move around and have some boxes not in their way. But you want to walk the home, you want to see if that's something that you would buy, you will live in, you will sleep in, you will cater yourself to, you will make homely, because that's the way you want to actually get a home. Like, would you live in there? Would you be comfortable wanting to be there, right? If you walk in the home, you're like, I don't feel too good about this. Get the hell out the house, man. It's already telling you that house is not for you. But if you walk in the home, you're like, man, this is a nice house. It's comfortable. It may not look pretty right now, but you have the mindset to make it look aesthetically pleasing. Take on the job, man. Figure out what's wrong with it. Okay, you know what's wrong with it now. Then take on the job, because that's a good feeling. That's a good deal. But the minute you got to think twice about it, don't do it. My sister always tells me, if you don't got a good gut feeling about it, leave it alone. So, I try to keep that real to myself and honor that commitment. But, when you're also buying a house, man, you want to see who's living in the area, right? You want to see what's being done in the area. Is there Chick-fil-A somewhere? Is there the university? Are there expressways? Is there road work being done? Are there a lot of street lights? Are there a lot of traffic lights? Because you want to think about traffic light means a lot of, traffic. A lot of people's in the city. If it's not a lot of traffic towns, if it's not a lot of people in a town, it's less traffic lights, meaning the population is pretty low. And you want to have a good, decent population, because that affects the median sales price in the area, how many houses are sold. So it's a whole like thing to that, you feel me? But you just want to think about the job placement in the area, how the job market, what major businesses are there, of course, what area is, will be good for up and coming. Like I mentioned before, if there are Chick-fil-A's around, Walmart's, Winn-Dixie's, any grocery stores, airports is a really great one, and anything else that keeps people around. I try to tell people, as populated towns as may be, you want to keep them as occupied with things to do as well. So you want populated towns, but you also want a lot of things in those towns as well, like diners, restaurants, attractions. So it's just not a town for people to be working. You feel me? At that point, it's just a slave, town. But it's a mixture of things. So always look for a mixture of things. Like I said, that's going to allow people to feel excitement when they go outside for Friday nights and all that good stuff. That's what makes a town a town. But like I said, you guys, it's always about where you buy. Be reasonable when you spend money. Don't have too much to spend on the house, and don't have too little to spend on the house. Buy at the price, the range that you feel comfortable at. Talk to your realtors. Have at least 3 or 4 GCs, general contractors, to come out. Get 3 or 4 opinions. If you always go for the cheapest price, understand what comes with cheap. If you go with a price that, it might be a little pricey, but, the work is going to get done respectfully, go with that person, because you won't have no headaches later down the line. But that's going to affect your deal. You know, if you get it at a good price, if you don't get it at a good price, all these numbers really do affect your deal and how you refinance. But most importantly, man, always make sure you have a mentor. I try to tell people this all the time. Have a mentor in this business, or even look to have somebody who you work with. Honestly, I was mentoring people, and you know, when mentorship it comes a lot on your mental, right? It's like me being a mentor. I'm like, man, is this a lot? So I'm really like low key stepping back away a little bit from mentorship and just working on my business solely and just building my business up gradually so I could be able to be a beacon for everybody else. I got to fill my cup up because someone did tell me, "Hey Mo, you help everybody else, man, but you never really like take care of yourself every once in a while." I'm like, "You're right. You definitely right." So I got to do that for myself. I got to pay myself that visit and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm always for the people. I'm always looking to help people and help them elevate their life and wealth and prosperity and justice and greatness. So, you know, that's the only reason why I'm always putting myself out there in front line. But other than that, man, I appreciate you guys for listening to Roll the Business Podcast. Make sure if you have any other questions as well, man, send me a DM, send me a text. If you have my number, send me an email, you know, if you have my email as well and my link in my bio. But make sure you leave a rate and review for this podcast and follow me, billionaire_moist on Instagram. And, you know, follow my podcast as well, roll_billions on Instagram. But other than that, man, you guys keep chasing your dreams and check out my other episodes as well. Take care.